Hello and welcome to Rathods Science Academy. Today in this session we are going to see current affairs of today's Hindu newspaper. So we are going to see some important articles and very relevant topics from our UPSC point of view, and most of the articles that we had discussed in earlier class. So we will be having in brief discussion on them. Okay, now let us see the first article, see the title guys. Will highlight priorities of Global South at G7, says Modi. So what this article is about? In yesterday's class, we had discussion on Prime Minister visit. So he is going to visit, especially which country? Canada, and he is going to attend G7 summit. And in this summit, our Prime Minister, he is going to prioritize some highlights regarding Global South. So the key word in this topic is, first one is Global South, next one is G7. Okay, so what is this Global South is about? Any idea, guys? Yes, it is a group of developing countries, right? Okay, so actually we have a concept called as Global South and as well as Global North. Okay. So if you consider this as a globe, this is equator. So here we have 90 degrees north and here we have 90 degrees south, right? So the area between the 0 degrees to 90 degrees north is called as northern hemisphere, and the area between the 0 degrees to 90 degrees south is called as southern hemisphere. So what is this concept of this global north and global south is? Global north is nothing but developed countries. Developed countries are called as global north, and global south is nothing but developing and least developed countries. Developing and least developed countries, they form this global south. So this global south is not based on the geography. Normally, according to geography, the region between this 0 degrees to 90 degrees north is called as northern hemisphere, and 0 degrees to 90 degrees south is called as southern hemisphere. But this global south or north concept is based on developed or developing or least developed countries. That means in this global south, here we have North America and here we have South America, right? So here there are certain countries which are joining this North America and South America. So these countries are also coming under part of this global south. They are called as Latin American countries. Okay, very, very important concept. Global south and global north. So now, can you tell me what are the problems which are faced by this developing and least developed countries? Environmental issues. Why environmental issues are faced by these developing and least developed countries, not why these developed countries are not facing this problem? Why now increased burden on these developing and least developed countries regarding environment? So here environment pollution started from when? Whenever this industrial revolution started. That means whenever we started using of industries, we started releasing of carbon dioxide emissions into atmosphere, and that led to this environmental problems, right? So if you compare this global north and global south, which countries started industrial revolution first? That is developed countries. That means global north started this industrial revolution. So that means whatever it is possible, already these countries, they released emissions into atmosphere. And now we are facing this climate change and environmental issues because of emissions which had been already released by global north. But now, so-called this developing countries and least developed countries, they want to start this industrial revolution. There is nothing but to start this industries now. But now, because of global warming, now there are limitations on these developing countries and least developed countries to stop industries or to limit their emissions into atmosphere. So who will be getting loss? So-called developing and least developed countries will be getting loss because already they gained advantage of this industrial revolution far before, right? Okay, So here these global south countries are facing first problem, that is environmental issues. So in this environmental issues, again we can divide like, so they are not having proper funds. Why? Because if you want to decrease carbon dioxide emissions, we need to use some advanced technology. We have to move towards renewable energy. So it is very costly for them. So they are lacking funds. Apart from that, do these countries having technology like these countries? No. And even we have problem of technology. And apart from this environmental issues, what are the problems we have in this developing and least developed countries? Yes, population is more. So population will be more in developed or developing or least developed countries. So in these least developed countries and developing countries, population will be more. You can take example of India, African countries. And next, what is other problem? Poverty, hunger, malnutrition will be high in which countries? African countries and developing countries, that is LDCs and as well as developing. And apart from that, what problems we have? Yes, literacy rate is also low. Next. And what about health facilities? Do we have, when we compare with this developed, do we have as par with this developed countries? No. Health issues and health access is not there. Next. Yes, standard of living also poor. Next. What problems we have? Education done, literacy done, health, poverty. Yeah, technology I gave there. Most of the organizations are running by this so-called developed countries, right? Next. What are the problems we have?
They have rich minerals, China and America.
Security issues also more in this developing and least developed countries compared to that of developed countries, right? Yeah, security issues. Next. Hmm? Yes, investment also we don't have. Okay. Eighth problem, investments. So now our Prime Minister is going to highlight these issues that we are facing in our global south. Clear? Okay, so from which subject we can say this, guys? So organizations, G7 is one grouping, right? So from which subject it is important? From GS paper 2 under international relations it is important. And global south is important from your GS paper 2 under governance. So this topic is important from your international relations and as well as governance. Clear? And here you have to see some basic facts regarding G7. Because in 2025 prelims, there was 3 questions directly based on these groupings. So you may also get a question regarding G7 in your 2026. So now let us see what exactly this article is saying. So if you see the context, India under leadership of our Prime Minister. Who is our Prime Minister? Everyone knows, right? Okay. Narendra Modi is set to highlight the priorities and what are the problems that we as a part of global south we are facing in this G7 summit. And this G7 summit is happening in Canada. Very, very important. And our Prime Minister is going to visit Canada. So in his route itself, he diverted to Cyprus that we discussed 2 days ago. Okay. So now let us see the details. If you see the details, it is saying that India is focusing on priorities of global south in this G7 summit. And apart from this priorities, he is also going to have bilateral talks with countries like Germany, Canada, Ukraine and Italy. With these 4 countries, we are also going to have bilateral talks. What is meaning of bilateral? Between these 2 countries, we are going to have talks. So see, Germany, Canada, Ukraine and Italy. So which continent they belongs to? Germany, Ukraine, Italy. At least Germany, Italy, which continent? Europe. Okay, Canada, North America. Ukraine, it is part of Asia. Okay, Asia and Europe. Okay. So here now tell me why we need to talk with European countries. What we are going to get? European countries are developed or developing? Developed means that is part of global north. Okay, so actually, the important problem that you said is we are facing environmental issues, increasing of pollution, increasing of carbon dioxide emissions, increasing of global warming, melting of glaciers, everything, whatnot. We are facing lots of problems. So because of this, if you're talking with these countries, what we can expect? We can expect funds, we can expect technology transfer, so that can we address our problems? Yes, so we are going to have this bilateral talks regarding what are the priorities we have so that we can get funds, investments, and as well as technology from these so-called developed countries which are belonging to this global north. And next one here is Modi supports negotiated settlements to Israel, Iran, and as well as Russia-Ukraine conflicts. So now we are also going to talk regarding Russia-Ukraine issue and as well as Israel-Iran issue. So why this Israel and Iran are fighting? What are the reasons? I said in last class, I guess. Yes, because Israel is opposing in Iran's nuclear development. Next,
Iran is
Iran, which country? Shias.
helping
Okay, Iran is religiously belonging to Muslim, that too Shia dominated, and Israel is Jewish country. So because of this religious issue is also there. And next, Iran is always supporting Palestine, which is against Israel. So because of all these things, Israel and Iran, they are in news now. And recently we discussed that Israel attacked Iran, especially nuclear bases and as well as some military bases they had been targeted and attacked, right? Okay, and what about this Russia-Ukraine conflict? So from last 3 years, more than 3 years, they are in conflict, right? They are in war-like conditions. What are the reasons behind this Russia-Ukraine conflict? Do you have any idea?
Ukraine want to join in
Ukraine want to join NATO. What is this NATO?
North Atlantic.
Yes, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. The important reason between this Russia-Ukraine conflict is Ukraine wants to join this NATO. So what is this NATO?
Is an organization.
Again, you have to know the story. If you go back to 1960s, so 1960s means nothing but after World War II, right? So after World War II, that is World War II. What is the timeline? Any idea when this World War II happened? 1939 to 1945. So after that, they enter into a phase called as Cold War. After World War II, Cold War. Cold War is nothing but silent war. So at that time, two power blocks were formed. So which are those two power blocks? On one side we have USA and another side we have USSR. Okay, so at the time of Cold War during this 1960s, we have two power blocks, one is USA and one is USSR. And USA came up with this concept called as NATO. NATO is nothing but North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And this USSR is not silent. To counter this, it came up with Warsaw Pact. Warsaw Pact. Okay, so NATO is nothing but North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Under this, if any country, if it is joining this NATO, if any country, if it is attacking that country, then this entire group will be fighting against that country. So actually, this Russia and Ukraine, they are sharing boundary with each other. If NATO wants to join this NATO, sorry, if Ukraine wants to join this NATO, then what happens? So NATO forces will be guarding now Russia-Ukraine boundary. Will this Russia say okay for that? If USA groups, if they are standing in this Russia-Ukraine border and they are guarding Ukraine against Russia, will this Russia say okay? No. So because of this, Russia started attacking Ukraine not to join this NATO. Okay, so it has been more than 3 years, this Russia and Ukraine, they are fighting. So here in this G7 summit, they are also going to talk about this fresh issues of Israel, Iran, and as well as Russia, Ukraine. Because of this geopolitics which is happening in the world, we are having impact. So because of this, Iran, Israel also will be having impact on India and its Indian economy, Indian diaspora, and even because of this Russia, Ukraine issue also, we are having lots of problems on India. So because of this, we have to resolve this issue as soon as possible. And we are trying to use this kind of organizations as a platform to resolve this issue. Okay, and next one here is, next point that you have to remember is nothing. And especially we are focusing on community protection, energy security, digital transition, as well as future partnership in this G7 summit. And what is this G7? G7 is nothing but a group of 7 most advanced developed countries in the world. And please make a note. So those 7 countries are, first one is France. First one is France. Next one is Germany. France, Germany, Italy, UK, Japan, US and Canada. France, Germany, Italy, UK, Japan, US and Canada. And these countries, they are leaders of important national organizations. For example, European Union, IMF, World Bank, United Nations. Okay, and every year this summits of this G7 will be held annually. Every year this will happen. And why this G7 had been formed? What is the reason behind it? So in 1973, there was oil crisis. Especially lots of countries had been affected because of this oil crisis, financial crisis, economic strain. So because of this, they came and they formed this grouping. And later on, Russia also added in this group. So after this group is called as G8. So G7 is the countries without Russia. If we include this Russia, it is called as G8 grouping. And what is significance of this G7 is it controls 60% of global net wealth. So these 7 countries, they are having 60% of the world's wealth. And next one is 46% of the global GDP will be driven by these 7 countries. And next one is it represents 10% of world's population. That is the significance of this G7. Okay. And see this next article. Kerala High Court bans single-use plastic in hilly areas, hotels. So what is the keyword? Can you see the image? What is that image? Elephants are eating plastic. Is that good? Can we eat plastic? Will this plastic can be digested by our digestive system? No, it is harmful, right? So now this article is saying that Kerala High Court is banning single-use plastic. So the keyword is single-use plastic. What is the meaning of single-use plastic? We have to use only one time and we have to throw it. Can you give me some examples of single-use plastic? Polythene bags. Earlier we used to have straws. When you drink coconut water or when you have this cool drinks, we used to have different colors of small pipes. Yeah, straws. Next. Cool drink bottles and water bottles. Next, plastic examples. Cover. Next. Okay, so why the single-use plastic are dangerous? They will not degrade and decompose easily. Next. We are not recycling it properly. Next. It will block digestive system of animals' digestive system if they ingest them. And next, have you seen different reels of animals, marine animals, how they are facing problem with plastic? So recently I saw one reel, one big whale had been stuck in one tire. And even, fishing nets will be there, which is made up of plastic, nylon, especially. So especially fishermen, when they go for fishing in the water, if the net, what happens, if it tears, means they'll leave in the water itself and they'll come back. So because of this marine animals will be getting lots of problem. And even, do you know about this Pacific garbage patch? Have you heard this word? Great Pacific Garbage Patch. No? Okay. So I want to draw that diagram. So do you know about these ocean currents? We have warm ocean currents, we have cold ocean currents. Ocean currents are nothing but the movement of water in a specific direction, right? So based on the temperature, we are saying them as like warm ocean currents and cold ocean currents. So whenever ocean currents are moving in certain direction, okay. So for example, here there is one continent. So ocean currents will be moving like this, right? And especially in North Pacific Ocean or South Pacific Ocean, we have gyres. Gyres is nothing but the still water. So what happens whenever we are using plastic? So it will be carried out by the water and finally they will end up in oceans. So because of this movement of water in a particular direction, they will be coming and they will be depositing in these gyres. So here in Indian Ocean and as well as in Pacific Ocean, we have very huge patches of plastic. It is one important grave concern that we are having regarding our marine environment. Okay, so this is one problem because of this plastic, because what happens here is whenever we are throwing outside the plastic, it will, after some days, because of heat, because of rainfall, because of cold and as well as heat expansion and contraction, it will be tearing into small pieces. Have you ever observed? If you're throwing covers, after some days, it will be becoming like very hard and it will be broken up easily. So after that, it will leads to microplastic. That means nothing but the small size of microplastic. Even some researchers are saying that even in our human blood also we have evidence of microplastic. Then you can imagine that how far plastic is contaminating our environment. Okay, so now finally here High Court of Kerala said that we should not use the single-use plastic. Is that a good move or a bad move? Okay. Now tell me, what are the challenges of banning of the single-use plastic? If suddenly when we ban this plastic, will the people follow this or not? No. What are the challenges we have? Tell me. Why people are not banning the single-use plastic? Yes, we have to use paper bags or jute bags. Comparatively, cost is high. And next, what are the problems? Yeah, we already had more dependency and more habituated to use plastic. Next, come on, tell me. Yes, lack of awareness, especially in rural areas, they don't have proper awareness about dangers of plastic. Next, come on, tell me. What are the other challenges we are having? It is not easy to get alternatives. Okay. So if we suddenly ban plastic, the companies which are producing plastic, will they be silent? Loss of livelihoods, loss of employment opportunities in this plastic-based industries. Next, think. You have to think. Unless and until you give work to your brain, it will not function actively. Tell me, what are the challenges? Why we are not stopping it? I didn't get you, Kiran. How? How is it linked to challenge? Okay, so even if you are banning plastic, it will also affect international trade, right? Next. So think about challenges at your level. How many of you are using plastic? Uh, that is impact. I'm talking about challenge. Why we are not stopping people to use plastic? So especially take your home as an example. So in your home, you will be using plastic, right? Plastic boxes, plastic teacups, especially when you go outside, you are using polythene bags, etc. Then why you are not educating your families at least not to use plastic? Plastic is inevitable in today's life. Think about this. Okay, now let us see this title and article, what exactly is saying. Kerala High Court has issued a landmark order banning use of single-use plastic items, especially in hilly tourist areas, eateries, weddings, and government functions throughout the state. And it's going to be effective from October 2nd. What is the importance of October 2nd? Ah, October 2nd. Gandhi Jayanti. Nitin. Okay, let us see the details. Both? Okay. So environmental concern highlighted by incidents of wild elephants ingesting plastic near Munnar region. So why this decision taken here is Kerala, Karnataka is very much famous for elephants. And we have more number of elephants in the state of Kerala and Karnataka. So whenever this elephants are ingesting this plastics, it will be blocking their digest system, it will be not get digested. And elephant is very, very important for our ecosystem because it is one flagship species. Wherever it goes, it will spread seeds, so that what happened, there will be the regeneration or the growth or development of the forest which happens. So because of this, ingesting of plastic is very harm. So because of this, they banned small plastic water bottles, soft drink bottles, food containers, plates, cups and straws that we use on our daily basis, right? And court also orders installation of kiosk dispensing clean, safe drinking water using eco-friendly containers. And even if you go to this Tirupati temple, how many of you have been to this TTT Tirupati? So whenever you go there, so they also ban completely plastic, and even for water bottles they'll give you glass. Nowadays they are giving glass bottles, and if you return them they'll give in return money. If you are not returning, you have to pay some advance amount, right? So that means they want to maintain this, at least this kind of tourist sites which is free from plastic, because whenever we are promoting any tourism site, there will be more number of tourists, they will be coming and gathering. That tourist site will be having some economic or spiritual significance, right? So if more number of tourists are coming, means more generation of plastic, that will leads to the harm to that environment. We have to control that. So especially this kind of steps which are mainly taken by this High Court of Kerala to ban single use plastic in this hilly areas. Okay, and now you have to see about the single use plastic, and you may get question regarding single use plastic. It is nothing but the plastic items that we will be using a single time and we will be throwing it off. That is called as single use plastic. And especially we will be using shampoo packets, yes or no, on daily basis. Shampoo packets, detergents, cosmetics, polythene bags, face masks, coffee cups, trash bags, food packaging, wherever you go, plastic will come be along with us, right? And here if you see the current production of plastic here, around 5 to 10% of greenhouse emissions is caused by 2050 because of this plastic. Why? Because whenever we are burning plastic, have you ever had the smell of this plastic burning? How it will be? Good or bad? So because of that, it is leading to the releasing of carbon dioxide emissions and as well as greenhouse emissions into atmosphere. Because of this, it will cause even global warming. And what are the measures so far taken by our country to ban the single-use plastic? You have to know this. So we came up with enforcement of laws, but there is no proper reporting and proper inspection. Even our Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that by 2022 we are going to ban single-use plastic completely in our country. But do we did that? No. Even now also we are using certain plastics. And next one here is, please make a note of this laws. So we have CPCB, that is Central Pollution Control Board, and as well as Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. They are coming up with their own websites, including information on environmental compliances, fines, etc. when we use this single-use plastic. And even if you go to weekly markets, I don't know whether it is there in the villages or not. In Hyderabad, we have this weekly markets. So on one day in a week, we have markets where there will be the selling of vegetables, fruits, everything happens. So actually that area where we can see wide use of single-use polythene bags. So whenever any person who comes for inspection, they'll, what they'll do? They'll hide. And after they go again, they'll remove that and they'll use that. Right, so it is happening in Hyderabad. Okay, and next important thing here is you have to know about this plastic waste management rules. So please make a note. Here CPCB came up with this plastic waste management rules to control plastic. And even have you ever observed like 20 microns, 10 microns, 50 microns? If it is so and so above 50 microns, we can use that. So even now government came with stopping of this micron business also, so that we can ban this single-use plastic. And countries which banned plastic completely is Bangladesh. See how ahead it is compared to that of India. Bangladesh completely banned. Next one is New Zealand, China, US and European Union. So please make a note. So countries which banned the single-use plastic: Bangladesh, New Zealand, China, US and European Union. So where you can use this example? Whenever you're writing any answer regarding single-use plastic, plastic management or recycling of plastic, plastic pollution, plastic problem in India, in conclusion you can say, right, so these are the countries which banned this single-use plastic, why can't we? So in the same way we have to impose the rules which done by these so and so countries so that you can enhance your skills and value addition to your answer. Okay, now let us see next article. You see the title, very important article. Army team leaves for India-France joint exercise. So whenever you are having this kind of joint exercises between the countries, you have to make a note. And especially you will be having around 30 to 50 exercises in a year. And you have to remember between which and which country it is and whether it is Navy or Army or naval exercise and in which area it had happened and which edition is it. So I'll tell you how you have to make a notes. So in your current affairs book, so keep last 2 to 3 pages for these exercises and you have to write name of exercise. And next one is between which countries. And next one is you have to see whether it is army exercise or naval exercise or air force exercise or coast guard exercise. We have 4 types, you have to see that. And next one is edition. Which edition is this in 2025 and place it held. You will be getting a potential prelims based question on this area. So they will ask you in this match the following question or like identify the correct pairs type of question, you will be getting this. In your current affairs book, last 2 to 3 pages you have to keep it for sure. Don't forget. And now this exercise is between India and France. So here it is India and France. And the name is Shakti. And it is army exercise. Military is nothing but army exercise. And place it is happening in where? Yeah, place it is in France itself. Okay, so like that you have to make a note. And this article is important from your international relations. So whenever you are writing relations between India and France, you can also add this. Yes, between India and France we have bilateral exercise also, which is a military exercises. So what we'll do in this exercise? Our army will be also participating and France army will be also participating. So what they'll do in exercises? They'll share the good practices and they'll share their technology and other countries will be knowing what problems they are facing in this military and how we have to overcome these problems. So in this way, so recently you know this civil mock drills, right? Yeah, what is a civil mock drill? Civil defense mock drills which happened in the recent times. Before tragedy, we will make the people to aware which kind of situation they will be facing and how we have to prevent the loss of life and what steps we have to take at that time. So that thing that they will do in this joint exercises. It may be Navy, it may be Army, it may be Air Force. What are the challenges they are going to have? Because Army challenges will be different compared to that of naval challenges, compared to that of Air Force challenges. Because Army people will be guarding border, Navy people will be there in the water, Air Force will be people will be there in the air, right? So the different challenges they will be facing. And from country to country, do we have difference in the equipments we are using? Yes, right. So we have to know which is advanced technology, which other countries are using. So that if we like that, if we believe that it is advantageous for our country, we can go and we can make agreement with that country and we can bring to our country so that we can effectively guard our borders. Because this kind of equipment is very important for our country because we are having Pakistan on one side, we are having China is on another side, and now Bangladesh is under UNES which is pro-China, right? From Myanmar we will be having always a problem called as insurgency. So because of all these things, we need to guard our border well. So for that, we need to have this kind of exercises with other countries, especially developed countries. With developed countries, we need to have this kind of exercises. Okay, you have to think all these dimensions, what they'll do, everything. And if you see, this article is saying that Indian Army contingent departed for France to participate in 18th edition. So this is 18th edition, please make a note. This is 18th edition of India-France joint military exercise, that is Shakti, and it is going to start from June 18th till July 1st in France itself. And around 90 Indian Army personnel, they are participating, and they are from Jammu and Kashmir Rifles. So now tell me, what are the problems faced by this Jammu and Kashmir? Terrorism, next. Insurgency, and even Pakistan terrorists, they will burrow small tunnels, and through the tunnels they will be entering into our country, so that we can't trace them by using radars also, right? That is one more problem. And even terrorist organizations are working along this POK region, that is Pak occupied Kashmir, and they are using drones to attack our air bases. And even whatever the mobiles they use, can we trace them? Because they are satellite based mobile phones, they don't have even sims also. If we have sims, we can trace them. So have you seen this movie Tupac? In that movie Tupac, you can see satellite phones, how they'll work. They are not having any sims, but directly they'll operate through satellites. So it will be a very great challenge for our Indian Army to trace those mobiles. So because of all these challenges, yes, we need to talk with other countries, like how they are handling that kind of situations, and what is advanced technologies they have, and how we can impart that kind of technology in our country to control these problems. Okay. Yeah. And they are focusing on interoperability and as well as operational coordination. And this Shakti is biennial. That means every once in 2 years we will be having this exercise. So now this year, it is in 2025, they are doing in France. That means next again it will be done in 2027, that too in India. So alternatively, we'll change the place and it will be done once in 2 years. Very, very important. And say this next article, India increased its nuclear warhead count to 180 in 2024 SIPRI report. So tell me, what is the meaning of warhead? Huh? They are warheads. They are nothing but the bombs. They are made up of either atoms or like nuclear material. So we'll call them as warheads. So do India needs these warheads?
Yes, ma'am.
For what?
To our safety.
For safety of our country. Okay. So if we want to use these warheads in our country, against which country we can use it? China, Pakistan. Next. Okay. So do you know this policy of India, no first use policy?
Yes, ma'am.
What is this no first use policy?
India given the statement in
Uh,
1999 that we will never use a nuclear weapon first draft.
Okay, so India has a policy that we have nuclear weapons, but we are not going to use on any country for the first time. That means first we will not start a war. So if other country is attacking us, we'll use that as a second strike. That is the policy of India, that is no first use policy. Okay, so actually SIPRI will be giving report every year, like which countries are having how many warheads. So this SIPRI report, now it is saying that in India we are increasing our warheads, and now we have 180 warheads in our country. Okay, now let us see this topic. So in 2024, India expanded its nuclear arsenal to an estimated 180 warheads, and we are focusing on increasing of development and as well as increasing of advancements, technology in this nuclear delivery system. That's a very, very important. And even we are updating our missiles. What is a missile? If there is any equipment which we are using for launching of a satellite, if it is crossing our atmosphere, it is called as rocket. But whenever we are using the same weapon within our atmosphere to launch a warhead on other country is called as missiles. So we are focusing on improving of missiles technology and as well as improving of warheads in our country. Why? Because of recent issues which are happening between India and Pakistan. Okay, that's it, nothing more than that. And see the next article. In yesterday's class, we discussed about retail inflation. Yes. So what was yesterday's article is about?
India is decreasing it, yeah.
There is decreasing of retail inflation in our country. I think 2 days ago we discussed, not yesterday, I guess. So now tell me, what are the reasons why we decreased retail inflation? Okay, tell me what is the meaning of inflation? Okay. Inflation is nothing but increasing of prices of goods and services in market is called as inflation. For example, if you compare with last year, so what was the price of mango last year? It is around 60 rupees. Now this year, what is the price? It is around 100. So if you're comparing with last year and this year, there is increasing of price or not? That is called as inflation. So let us take example of eggs. So earlier, if you take 2 years back, what was the price of one egg? 4 rupees or 5 rupees. Now it is 6 or 7 rupees. There is increasing of price, yes or no? That condition is called as inflation. So if you see services, for example, what is the auto charge? If you see auto charge last 2 years back, it was like 10 rupees, but now the same auto which is around 20 to 25 rupees now. So like that, in the service also there is increasing of cost. That is called as inflation. Okay, so in this inflation we have two types of inflation. One is retail inflation. Next one is wholesale inflation. So do you know the difference between wholesaler and a retailer? Wholesaler is a person who will buy goods in a bulk from directly manufacturer. And have you ever seen one big auto or one big carrier van will be bringing lots of goods in them and they'll be supplying the goods to different shops. The person who is bringing in bulk is called as wholesaler. The retailer is nothing but you and me. If we want something, we'll go to the nearby shop and we'll buy the goods. That is called as retailer. So inflation is measured at the two levels, wholesale level and retail level. So wholesale level it is called as wholesale inflation and at retail level it is called as retail inflation. So actually recently the article said that there is decreasing of inflation at retail prices. Okay, so now can you guess what are the reasons why there is decreasing of price and when the price will be decreasing? What are the conditions? Yes, when supply is more, very good, we have inflation. So whenever there is increased supply, we have inflation. Okay, now tell me what are the reasons for increasing of supply? Yes, whenever we are producing more. For example, we have a concept called as Make in India, where we are focusing on increasing of domestic production. So in yesterday's class also I said some examples like India is decreasing import cost on electric vehicles, so that we are focusing on Make in India of electric vehicles, right? So like that, government will be taking some steps where we are focusing on increasing of domestic production. Whenever we are producing in our country, then we can get that product for less cost. Next, when we are having good rainfall, what happens? We will be having good agriculture production. So at that time also, what happens? There will be more supply of food grains to the market. That will lead to decreasing of prices. And next, what are the other conditions? When there is low demand. When there is low demand also, obviously the cost will be decreases. Okay. So now what happened in our country is we have early monsoon this year. 10 days of early monsoon. Because of this, already rainfall started even in the end of the May. So that we are expecting good rainfall, good agriculture production. So because of this, there is decreasing of prices. And even we are focusing on development of especially technology in our country. And even we are focusing on increasing of production in our country. So because of that reason also, there is decreasing of things, decreasing of the prices. So that's the thing which mainly said here, nothing more than that. So inflation is a chapter in your economy. It is very, very important and you will be getting prelims and as well as mains based question every year regarding this chapter. So you have to see what is this inflation, what are the types of this inflation, and you have to see like what are the causes of inflation. So now tell me why there is increasing of prices of a good in the market. Yes, whenever there is increasing of demand, next. Whenever there is decreasing of supply, why supply will be less? Okay, production is less. Why there is decreasing of production? Yes, because of climate change. Next, because of decreasing of raw material. For example, if you take pharmaceutical industry, yesterday I said India is good in exporting of pharmaceuticals, pharmaceutical hub. We call India as pharmaceutical hub. But actually, the bare truth of India is, if you want to produce any good, we want API, that is active pharmaceutical ingredient. So if you want to make a tablet, we need to have this active medicament, that is medicine. Apart from this medicine, we will be having binders, some other powders. Okay, so actually we don't have manufacturing of APIs in our country. We will get this APIs from China. From China, we'll import these APIs, and after getting that APIs, we'll be adding some additives and we'll be punching that tablet and we'll be supplying it to other countries. So what if China stopped exporting of APIs? It will lead to fall of India's pharmaceutical market. So this happened during this COVID-19 time. Okay, that means whenever there is decreasing of raw material availability, and even whenever there is increasing of cost of raw material, it will lead to increasing of price. So you have to see certain causes of increasing of inflation. And next we have indices, that is CPI and as well as WPI. So you have to see that. And whenever inflation is happening in our country, is it good? No, it is bad. So here we have two organizations. First one is RBI, second one is central bank. They will take certain steps to control inflation in the market. So I'll explain how it happens. So here government will take some certain steps. That steps is called as fiscal policy. Okay, so what are the steps taken by the government to control this inflation is called as fiscal policy. Under this we have two types. First one is taxes. It will control inflation through taxes. Second one is public spending. Okay. So, and one more condition is, whenever people are having more money in their hands, then what happens? They will give more money for a good. So that what happens? It will create inflation. So here government want to control money supply in the market. So what are the taxes? They have to pay certain amount to the government on their profit or on their income, right? So now if government wants to decrease money in the market, taxes should be increased or decreased? Yes, taxes government will increase. So if there is no inflation market, then what happened? Government wants to inject money in the market. If government wants to inject money in the market, taxes will be increased or decreased? Then taxes will be decreased if government wants to inject money into the market. And this one is public spending. Public spending is nothing but some of you might be aware about government will be constructing some infrastructure projects, dams, flyovers, hospitals, schools, etc. That is called as public spending. Okay, so whenever government is starting any infrastructure projects, then what happens? It will create employment opportunities. Government cannot alone come and bring the bricks and build the walls, everything, right? So they will be hiring some labor for doing that project. So it will create employment or jobs will be created here. And if the jobs are created, if people are hired, will they work for free of cost? They'll get salaries. They'll get salaries. So whenever they are getting salaries, then they'll go to the market and they'll place some orders for the goods and services, right? So if government wants to increase money supply in the market, whether government should increase public spending or decrease public spending? Yes, now government will increase public spending so that people will be having money in their hands. So if government wants to decrease money supply in the market, when what happen? It will stop the infrastructure projects. Okay, in this way, government plays its role regarding increasing or decreasing of money supply in the market. This policy is called as fiscal policy. And what RBI does. So RBI will also take some steps. It is called as monetary policy. So this story is entirely different. So here we have RBI. So this is RBI. And apart from that, we have other banks, commercial scheduled banks, right? So we can take other banks here and we have RBI. So these banks will be getting loans from RBI. So RBI will not give loans on free of interest. They have to pay interest. So banks in return, they have to pay interest to the banks, to this RBI. Banks, they have to pay now interest rate to the RBI. So if RBI wants to decrease money supply in the market, what it have to do based on this interest rate, whether they have to increase or decrease interest rate? Yes. So now RBI will increase interest rate. So whenever RBI is increasing interest rate, so now banks have to pay more interest rate. So if me or you wants to go to bank to get loan, now interest will be more or less? More interest. So because of this, will you take loan from the bank? No. So that money supply with you will be decreased. For example, Kiran is having more money and he thought that, yes, if he is depositing money in the bank, he will be getting interest. So here Kiran, if he is having money in his hand, then what he'll do? He'll go to bank and he'll deposit the money. So whenever this Kiran is depositing money here, the money with Kiran will be less or more now? Less. So in this way, money supply in the market will be controlled by RBI to control inflation. If they want to increase money supply, what they'll do? Interest rates, they'll decrease interest rates. So whenever they are decreasing interest rates, what happen? Banks can give more loans to the people. If loans people are getting means people will be having money in their hands. So what happens now, Kiran, if he is very intelligent? So if I keep my money in the bank, I'm getting less interest. Rather than that, I'll take money and I will lend to another person personally. So what he'll do, he'll go to bank and he will withdraw money now rather than depositing here. So that now money will be there in the hands of Kiran. Clear? So this policy is called as monetary policy of RBI. So RBI will be playing a very important role, and as well as government will play any very important role regarding this maintaining of money, so that they'll control this inflation. So this is about your monetary policy and fiscal policy, guys. Okay, monetary policy is dealing with interest rates and fiscal policy is dealing with taxes and public spending. Clear? Yeah, this is about this topic. And these are the very important articles that appeared in our today's Hindu newspaper, guys. So by this I'm concluding. Thank you so much for watching, and please do like this class and share this class. And do follow our Instagram for question, and we are posting question at 11 a.m. Thank you, guys.